Welcome to the WeShape podcast. Another week, another podcast.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Here with Nina and Tyler. How you guys doing?
Very good.
Doing well.
Love
Kind
it.
of matchy today, which is
You guys do that a lot.
Sometimes we come in denim.
You guys do a lot of twinning.
brother from another mother.
Accidental
over here.
twinning. though.
Accidental twinning.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited about today's episode because I wanted to do an episode around community. I know we've done a couple episodes around community before, but I wanted to have the intention around helping our community understand why we have community, right? We didn't just do it for no reason. And so
And encouraging everyone to find and lean into their communities because it's so important.
Yeah, and I think, we're part of a society here, specifically in the U.S., that has a lot of opportunity for community, but at the root really has sort of an individualistic nature to its way that we function.
Yeah.
And so since we kind of come from that ideal, it's even more important that we learn how to cultivate community around us. So I wanted to do an episode about this because I feel like it's extremely important, and I wanted people to understand why we intentionally chose to have community as part of the service and product that we put out into the world. So I think one of the things that, just to kind of dive in already, one of the things that I've talked about before, and I'll say again, is Dr. Wendy Suzuki, who's a neuroscientist, has done a lot of research on the benefits of exercise and longevity, and she had interpreted some research studies around what was actually contributing to longevity. And she had hypothesized that exercise would really be at the top. And I think she was surprised to find that what was actually at the top was connection with community. And I think the most important thing that the research showed was that it wasn't connection with your best friend. That was not the definition of community. It was connection with the barista making your coffee. It was connection with the person that you said hello to in the grocery store. It was these continuous points of connection that actually made people feel like they had a sense of community that actually contributed to the longevity piece. And I think exercise is definitely important, but I think she was surprised to find that a sense of community was actually superseding that. So that was sort of one reason, as I had kind of heard about this, and I thought, wow. I mean, I always knew inherently that we've probably all experienced at some point in our life what community feels like and can understand how that feeling would drive that result. But the second thing was I started to understand that the mission that WeShape was sitting on, which is, having people focus on movement instead of exercise, having people think about their beliefs, having people shift their intentions from weight loss to something more meaningful, and having people dissect some of these toxic weight loss culture messages that we receive around, finding worth and validation through the scale or through diets or through exercise. I felt like if we're going to go down this path of saying, actually, we're gonna sort of dissect all these layers and actually show you how that's not serving you, you're going to need a community of people who support you.
Absolutely.
Because if you join WeShape and you're like, oh, I'm recycling my scale and I'm focusing on other things, and then you go to lunch with your best friend and she's like, I'll have a side salad and some bone broth for lunch.
Have you heard about this latest diet and like this burn and churn fitness program?
Then you're going to feel like you're not on the right path.
Right.
So how do we create a sense of community in WeShape that's like giving you permission to be on this path that has your best emotional, psychological, social, physical well-being in mind? So that's why I really wanted to do this episode, is so that people can understand the real intention behind why we have community. It's because we know that it contributes to longevity and overall life satisfaction. And we also know that when you're going down a path that not a lot of people are on,
so much harder.
It's so much harder. So one of the ways we incorporate community here at WeShape is we do our WeShare calls. We're also about to launch the podcast discussion groups. We have the Q&A calls. So these are live Zoom calls. We don't require people to turn their video on, but many people do. Many people share, many people talk. And I think once you start going over and over, you do develop that sense of community because you recognize everyone who's on the call. So all of us actually lead one of these calls. Yeah. So I'd love for you guys to share, maybe each of you can talk about, all of us can talk about so sort of our experience since we've launched that part of our service and our product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before I jump into my own experience, though, I just want to just double echo what you said, because I feel like we kind of found data in separate ways to really support this. You had the neuroscientist Wendy Suzuki, and I thought that was amazing. And then later on, I'm reading this other book called The Good Life, where they looked at this Harvard study that's been going on for 85 years, where they're following people throughout their entire lives and trying to find these correlates to health and satisfaction. And sure enough, same result. It's the quality of your community, it's the depth of the relationships that you have that is forming your health and your overall satisfaction in life. And I think it's fun to contemplate like why that might be, but to me, life is a series of ups and downs. And if you're joining a fitness program thinking it's going to be a linear path, it's probably not going to be just like all better from here, right? You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have things that happen. You're going to get injured randomly along the way. Who knows what's going to happen? And I think that what community does more than anything is it helps hold you through those moments, right? When we're making progress, we're feeling good, we're doing our workouts, whatever, and then we roll our ankle stepping off the sidewalk and we're like, oh no, I can't do anything for 2 months and I have to build my way back up. If you do that alone, most people are just going to kind of go back to what they were doing before. They're going to feel like, unmotivated. They're not going to feel like they want to do it. But if a community's there and they're like, oh, and they offer you some empathy, they offer you permission to feel kind of lousy for a week or two, just feel kind of, hey, sometimes you just got to mourn that loss, right? And then they're right next to you and supporting you while you start back up. Like the likelihood of success is so much greater. So, and this relates to what my experience is with these calls. I am shocked sometimes at how we don't have more people on these calls, because the moment I see somebody attend one of them and ask a question and get immediate value, or share an experience and have everybody hold them through that, I see just this magical community form at the end of the day. And having hosted a lot of the movement calls, I get the sense that people are really supporting each other. I was on a call the other day where a lady came on and she was like, oh, I haven't talked to this person for a little while. Like, oh, I'm going to text you afterwards. Like, they start building connections with people who are on a similar path. Like you said, you can't dissect your beliefs and go down a different route of focusing on movement and taking care of your body instead of feeling pressure to change it and crash dieting and doing crash workout programs without somebody right next to you saying, I'm doing the same thing and we're going to hold each other through this. So that's been the biggest thing I've seen. And also, we host challenges, and on those calls we can end up with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on these calls. And the people who are willing to come up and just share from a space of vulnerability, hey, I'm really struggling here. What I see more than anything is the entire community just rush to their aid, rush to their side, support them. I feel like there's a massive lack of people feeling really seen and held in this world these days. And I am so proud to say that our community just does that incredibly well. So.
And when they share stories, they're inspiration for others, right? Like, I overcame this, or I was able to shift my belief system and now I feel like free from these old toxic patterns, and people feel inspired by that. So I always have a tremendous amount of gratitude when people do get brave enough to be vulnerable, and we do our best that we can to create a safe space, right? Where people can feel you're here as a way to care for yourself and connect, and not as a way for us to judge you. Or I'll just actually go right into my story and experience. Like, I had a woman on a few weeks ago who, she was like, oh, I haven't done my workout in a couple weeks. And I could see that she was going down a path of self-judgment and criticism. And I just said, hey, I just want to honor your experience, and just say, sometimes I miss my workout for a few weeks too. And how many workouts you're doing here does not define your worth or your ability to be welcomed. Or we literally just want to offer each other kindness and grace and compassion for our own experiences, not as a place of self-judgment. And so I hope to give you permission to release that judgment from yourself and do what you can and be okay with that. And I just really felt her sense of oh, thank you for that, because I don't want people coming here feeling like they have to change something about themselves. And when you think about it, most fitness products out there, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're going in to try to change something, right? I'm here to like lose weight. I'm here to get in this pant size. I'm here to do this thing. And so you're participating in something that's requiring you to basically acknowledge that how you are isn't good enough. And if you stay with this program, we'll help you change to something better. And so I just love to use my calls as an opportunity to remind people like we're not here to change anything. We're just here to be with each other and support each other and offer each other kindness and respect and no judgment through the process. So
yeah, but Chara, I just want to just piggyback on that before maybe Nina jumps in to share her experience as well. And that is when people are doing a workout program and they lose the ability to be consistent, there is a level of self-judgment that kind of comes in naturally, right? We start saying to ourselves, oh, I'm a failure. Like I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. And if there's nobody around us to remind us that's okay and to give us permission to have an off week and to remind us that all we have to do is wake up tomorrow and just try again. And if we don't do it that day, just wake up the next day and try again and not keep beating ourselves down and creating shame and guilt and all these negative feelings that we're now associating and marrying to our lack of ability to be consistent. We end up spiraling down that path. People go from I skipped my workout to I skipped a bunch of workouts to I can never do this to I'm a failure, and they identify with that. And I think what's so powerful about a community is you see a bunch of people missing their workouts, going on vacations, and just enjoying their time rather than beating themselves up to be super consistent on this stuff all the time, and giving each other permission to say, hey, it's not about what you're doing, in the next week or 2 weeks that really matters. It's what's happening over the course of a year or 2 years that really matters. And so I see that a lot. I see people beat themselves up, and then the moment somebody says, it's okay, just wake up tomorrow and try again, it's like their whole demeanor changes and they lose that attachment to being a failure, which is what prevents us oftentimes from taking action.
Well, that's what I mean is like to think that you're going to be self-critical and judge yourself for not doing your workout, and you think that that's what's actually going to inspire you to do the next workout.
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So if you can, that's why I tell people like, don't worry so much about the cadence of the workouts. Do what you can, but try to come to the calls, because the calls are a safe landing space for you that keep you connected with this community that can hold you in a way that maybe another community can't. So I really encourage people to come to as many. I mean, they're all included in the membership. So I'm like, come to as many as you want. Like, we love seeing all the same people. So I know that you lead a call too, Nina. I don't know if you want to share sort of like
absolutely.
how that experience has been for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to say too, like personally having community is such a valuable part of my life. And my friends and I have a funny saying that we say to each other, which is like, no one's ass all falls off on the same day. So like when you're going through something hard and you're like, I'm falling apart here, I don't know what to do, maybe I can't get through what's going on, that person next to you can usually help you carry that load. And that is such an important thing to remember, that like when it's too heavy for me, I can call you or another friend and say, hey, like I'm struggling and can you support me in this? And I watch that happen naturally in these calls. Like these people come in as members and they've never met, and they've never spoken. And like over time now, we've been running these calls for a while. I watch them like have outside relationships. Like these people joined a workout program. They probably didn't know, honestly, that they were getting what they were getting, because we pull a little bit of a switcheroo sometimes. And some of the things I've watched transform on those calls is not only friendships that started from, hey, I see you on Zoom once a week, to now like they text or they talk about how they were talking on the phone. And I'm like, you guys are friends in real life. Like some of them are in Canada, others in Florida, like all around the world.
I know, and they sometimes plan their workouts at the same time.
They like totally have built a real community that started on it as an online platform, but like have created this beautiful thing. But I have a specific thing in mind, which I think is so beautiful. Something about community that I think is not necessarily overlooked, but sometimes like forgotten or lost in the shuffle, because we think about those close connections. But when you have the ability to be visually like witnessed by others, and share your truth and have someone be like, oh my gosh, that person just said something that I've only ever thought. I've never said it out loud. That is so powerful. And people don't know that unless they speak, right? Yeah. Like I have had someone like tell my story before and be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know anyone else had ever felt like that. Yeah. And it gave me that permission to be like, I might be okay.
Yeah.
But specifically, I had a woman on a call a couple weeks back, and she was going through a lot of stuff. And again, we come to these calls often to discuss, maybe we're having some issues with movement or we're feeling less motivated or whatever. But some amazing things have happened outside of that scope, like that they don't come to change how they look, but they want to change how they feel.
Yeah.
And some of that's been like really emotional work, which I was really surprised by. And anyway, this woman was doing a lot of caretaking for a family member that needed a lot of support, and it was really becoming super, super draining, to the point that they were not really able to sustain that. And she was going to have a hard conversation. And she was having this discussion with us about how she was feeling down and things were going kind of difficult for her lately, and she didn't really know what was wrong. And then as we sat there and we just kind of allowed her to speak on her experience, she came to the realization, I have to have this hard conversation. I have to put myself first in this area in order to be able to feel better and make these better choices for myself. And like, no one was giving her advice. No one was telling her, well, you should do this with your life, or this is the plan.
Yeah.
They just were like, I'm just listening.
Yeah.
And like, she was able to get there just because she was being witnessed. And that to me is super, super powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got to point out something that I was on a call later in the week, and I know exactly who you're talking about, because she came to my call and said, thank you so much for building this amazing community and having such a powerful message of showing up for yourself out of self-care rather than self-judgment and wanting to change who you are. And she had that difficult conversation. And she felt like a huge weight was lifted off of her shoulders, and also recognized that a lot of the tweaks that she would experience in her body came from her pushing herself too far in an area where she just needed to,
connected.
she needed to have more space and more time to rest and take care of her body. And I think one of the most common things I see, especially in women, is this hardwiring to take care of other before take care of self. And what do they say when you get on the airplane, right? Put your oxygen mask on first before you help anybody else, because it's not going to help anybody else if you don't put yours on first. And then what do we do in real life? We go around and we make sure everybody else is taken care of, and we never take care of ourselves. And I think
so
that
hard.
it's such a good reminder, and that's such something I see over and over again, is people just talking and going through their experience and going through their struggle, and along the way they're kind of recognizing like, whoa, here's where I'm going wrong, and then you just kind of maybe give them like one little tip over on the domino, and then they just, that's the thing that they need to make that catalyst of change.
I mean, think about that though. Think about in a traditional fitness community when someone comes in and they say, I'm burnt out, I miss my workout, I'm this and that. It's like, oh, well, we'll just motivate
Move
you.
it or lose it.
And, no pain, no gain. And we're like, oh, we're so sorry for that experience that you're having. You're in a safe, judgment-free space. Like, we're here for you. Like, do what you can. Say no when you need to. Take care of yourself. Like, what a completely different, experience to go through something like that. And I feel so proud of all the WeShape coaches here who really have done such a phenomenal job of just holding people. I tell people, even if you don't want to talk, even if you don't want to have your camera on, just go listen. You can still develop community in that way. Like, we're not requiring people to talk. We're not requiring anything. We're just like, here, do you need a safe space to go? Do you need to find connection? Do you need to hear other people's stories? Like, I feel so proud of this team because the way that the coaches have come together to really be able to hold people is a really beautiful thing, and it's something I haven't seen in a space like the fitness industry. So I just want to express
our
that gratitude.
empathy muscles, and seeing other people for who they really are. And it's like, it makes me feel emotional every week because I'm like, I get to watch you guys do this amazing work, and it's not easy stuff.
And motivation, just like you said, Katie, motivation through guilt and shame is very short-lived, and it's all packaged in negative feelings that aren't going to encourage someone to be inspired to move. It's like, I really want to focus always on moving people from motivation, which is like needing something to pull you along, whether that's like shame or guilt or some extrinsic goal, to inspiration. Feeling like you wake up and you just want to do it because it's the thing that you want to do for yourself. And if we can do that, it's just a beautiful thing.
Once I stopped saying I should work out, and I started saying, like, what does my body need and how can I care for it and how can I surround myself with a community of people who are there to support me and not push me, everything changed. It's like I want to move.
And when you feel endlessly tapped out, you don't usually have extra energy for like other stuff, right? So when you're choosing yourself, you're putting those needs first, you're able to have a little bit more gas in the tank. You might be like, wow, I feel like I really would love to go outside and go on a walk today.
Yeah.
When you're feeling down in the dumps, you're like, I'll probably just pass.
Yeah. And another area too that we're not talking about a lot, which is, we want community, and we think the best way to create community is join the calls that we have as a part of, our program. And that is absolutely the way to go. Like Katie said, join a call, just listen, just come to one of them. And I promise you'll see some value, especially just listening and hearing somebody else struggle. And then you have that moment of like, whoa, I'm struggling with that too. Right. But another thing that we did is we added an actual community to the product as well. And so that, the goal here was so many people are out using social media to make connections and try to feel like they have some support. But what does social media do, right? It takes all the most popular stuff, which is usually like crazy negative or, entertaining or something, and puts it in front of your face. And it doesn't really fortify a community. And so, we wanted to leverage those same types of experiences and integrated a community in the product where if you don't have time to go to the calls, like finish a workout and post in the community, hey, I just completed my first workout, and watch what happens. You're going to have everybody there, thumbs up, support, etc. If you feel compelled to write something vulnerable on there, you're going to have the same type of support you would on the calls, because people are starting to understand that what we want to do more than anything is just offer people acceptance, inspiration.
I was going to say, a lot of people on the contrary say, man, I'm really struggling this week. I haven't been able to do my workouts, or I'm just having a rough go. And people are just there. Oh, we're so sorry to hear that. We're here for you. You've got this.
Don't beat yourself up.
The entire premise behind WeShape is like in all of the pillars of movement, community, beliefs, intentions. It's creating sustainability. This is not a fad thing that we're trying to do. This is not a shiny object we're trying to, or dangle a carrot in front of you. What we're trying to offer is long-term community, long-term connection with yourself, so that it's sustainable for many years to come. So, I think the community is a phenomenal way, and I like that we do have that other piece where people can just go on the feed and just write. They don't have to join the call.
It takes 10 seconds to just connect with the community and just share a struggle or share a win, and just watch what happens. And the moment that happens, it might give you the juice to want to lean into that more, and that'll hold you a lot more as you go through your journey, because again, it's not going to be linear for you. And just to piggyback on the stories we see on the calls, this happens in the community too. My favorite one, this was just absolutely insane, was one of our oldest members that we had, her husband was a truck driver, and he was driving it in a different state and got into a pretty bad accident and ended up in a hospital. And somewhere along that way, he didn't get his phone. Like the ambulance didn't find his phone or something. So he's in a hospital. She's trying to connect with him. He doesn't have his cell phone. And she's like, this horrible thing happened. My husband's in this area. And somebody else goes, I live there. And goes to the hospital and brings a phone to him and connects our member with her husband. And I just to me, I was like in tears over someone saying, hey, I'll show up for you. And it was completely unrelated to fitness and movement. I could almost cry thinking about it when I'm talking about it right now. But that's the quality of the people that we have here, and how people are really trying to show up for each other.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think once people come in and experience that it's just a safe, judgment-free space, and they can just hear the stories of others or share their stories, I think this is the way that we pave a new path and create a new value system that's rooted in self-care, connection with your body, connection with yourself. And I'm just, this community, the team at WeShape, and then the community of people who follow us, I think about it every day, and I have tremendous gratitude. I feel completely inspired by this group of people, and it's what really keeps the inspiration going behind the scenes. So,
it sounds like regardless of what you're, whether you're currently using WeShape, if you're new to us and are trying it out, or if you're somebody who's just listening to this podcast, the most important thing I think to take away from this is to recognize the value of community, and recognize that, we're talking about 2 different studies of really, really thought out people saying this is the number 1 contributor to your overall health and life satisfaction. It's not how much money you make or how much stuff you have or how your body looks or how much exercise you do. It's the community you surround yourself with. And so if you're in your life and you're not thinking that you have that in place right now, start building that. You can come join us at WeShape if you want to. You can start building that locally. You can examine your friend groups and say, who in my community is serving me and who's not? And when I say serving me, it's are they allowing you to be you? Or are they creating judgments and keeping you trapped in kind of these places where you feel stuck? And I think that's important for everybody to spend some time saying, where can I find more community? It's so important.
And I think as you build community with others, you actually build community with self. That connection that you have with other people.
Mic drop.
My shining moment. It's true. The more you understand that you can see yourself in someone else, the more you can say, if they're going through this and they've overcome it, then I can too. And I can offer that compassion to them. So maybe I can offer it to myself as well.
That's really big. I just want to say one thing about that is that as a child, we learn how to love and respect ourselves by how the people around us love and respect us. And unfortunately, some of us didn't have the best upbringings, and so we operate in this world not really realizing that much. But like you're saying, the more we're able to offer that to another, the more we're able to offer that to ourselves, the more we're able to offer that to another, and it just keeps repeating.
Receive from others as
giving
well.
and receiving that ability to just accept people and show up and hold them through whatever they're struggling with. So
It's a beautiful thing.
Well, thanks, you guys, for talking with me about my favorite part of WeShape, honestly. We'd love to hear from you. If you ever want to connect with us, you can reach us at podcast@WeShape.com. We love hearing people's stories or questions. We're always available to connect, and we will see everyone next week.
yeah, if you jump into WeShape, hopefully we'll see you guys on one of these calls. Tell them you found us on this podcast and say hello.
I was going to say there's a link, I believe, in our show notes that gives you an option to try WeShape. So if you want to come check us out and get to know us, we can do that. We'll see you later.
See you guys next week.